in our country, we have a lot of entrepreneurs, self-employed people. What sort of guidance would you give them when they're applying for a home loan?
100%. A very good question once again, Karen. And we deal with so many self-employed applications. And I think there is a stigma out there that if you own your own business, you're not going to get a bond. And nothing could be
Further from the truth.
Yeah. You know, we've dealt with so many people from all kinds of applications. You know, the big business owner to the small sole proprietor, you know, that has a small little business from home.
Okay.
And it really doesn't mean because you have your own business, you're not going to get a bond.
Okay.
What is important to note, though, is you have to be able to supply the correct kind of documentation to the banks to prove your income. And this is where your bookkeeper or your accountant is so important.
So how many months do they sort of need to sort of submit? Because I get told different things in the market where they need to sort of prove the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Is it that strenuous?
That is normally. Look, I mean, you know, I always say to clients, you know, think of it from the bank's point of view. You're asking them to borrow you, whether it be 500,000 or a million or 3 million rand or whatever. You need to know that whatever income you declare is going to be sustainable, firstly.
True.
And you must be able to prove it to them.
Right.
And remember also that the banks, you know, it's not a person that sits there that makes a decision. They're guided by National Credit Act regulations and things. So they need to make sure that certain things are in place for them to be able to approve a bond. And that's why the self-employed person needs to be able to, well, firstly have a very good accountant or bookkeeper. Normally it's a minimum 2-year history of the company, and then from there, what income do you draw from the company to pay yourself as a salary or an income? I think most business owners, and we're all in the same boat here, you try and draw as little as possible salary as you can to avoid tax. And that's where the catch-22 comes in. So it is a good idea, especially if you're a business owner, to maybe start doing your homework long in advance before you think of buying.
Okay.
Because there might be something that you need to change in your income that you pay yourself or whatever to be able to qualify for the bond. But I think the bottom line here is, don't think that if you're a business owner you're not going to get a bond. That is absolutely not the case. We do many self-employed bonds, and we get competitive rates for them, and there's a high success rate for those ones if everything is in place that needs to be.
Great.
So that just sort of spins something in my head where a question arises now. Do they have to pay a bigger deposit, or would it help them to sort of raise their cash flow as a deposit? Because as business owners, we're sort of trying to keep our cash flow to run our business, as you just said, you know. So
there's no real difference between a self-employed person and a salaried employee with regards to deposits. Remember also, and I'm glad you brought it up because it is a very good point to bring across, is that every bank has a different criteria and a different view on what they're trying to do and what they want to do for their clients that apply for home loans. So the one bank might say for a certain type of client you need a 10 or 20% deposit, and another bank might say we'll give you 100% bond. So this is also why we would encourage people to speak to a professional like ourselves that knows the bank's criteria, that work with them every day to give them the right guidance.
Etienne, another question is quite a few of the South Africans live abroad and they still love South Africa. They've got family living here, and we get sort of email hits of them interested in investing in South Africa because, as you know, us South Africans, we staunch South Africans, and often they want advice from us as agents. You know, what kind of a loan could they get? Is there an avenue you can explore there?
100%. So we actually deal with quite a lot of South African citizens working and living abroad, and the good news is there is an avenue for them. Once again, it varies from bank to bank. So, so the first question we normally get is, what kind of a deposit would I need if I wanted to buy in South Africa, being based abroad and earning euros or dollars or whatever the case might be. So it varies literally from 50% to, there's one of the banks that are saying that they will consider 100% bonds. My advice would be to maybe just work with a 10% deposit at least. So, like everything, the bigger your deposit is, the bigger your chances of success. But for a South African living and working abroad, if you can work with a 20, possibly 30% deposit, there's options for you with regards to a bond.
Okay, so something there. So a lot of the foreigners are expected to pay a 50% bond. So if they're a UK citizen and then they're buying in South Africa, then from my history, they needed to come up with a 50% bond. So is there a
that's-
difference there?
Yeah, there's definitely a difference. So if you are a South African citizen and you have a South African ID, which also means that you probably have a credit profile in South Africa still, which also obviously helps the application, then you qualify for what I just mentioned. If you a citizen from a different country and you want to buy in South Africa, then the norm is 50% bond, 50% deposit. But
Okay.
the main thing is there are options for you. And from our experience, interest rates doesn't vary too much from your normal South African who lives here and buys here and those people, because obviously you're earning dollars and pounds and a stronger currency normally, and that counts for a lot. So the sustainability of your income. So the banks look at the application basically in the same way. They just mitigate their risk in asking for a bigger deposit normally for those type of
Okay,
products.
excellent. No, I didn't know that. That's
Interesting,
fantastic.
yeah,
eh?
yeah.
There's
Totally, yeah.
big hope out there for expats.
Absolutely.
Okay, so from the 17 years that we've been associated with you, not only on the financial and the bond side of things, but on a personal capacity, we socialise with each other. We go for weekends away. We braai. You guys golf. I hear about the scores, but I won't mention anything about that. Which are also just to know that I can guide my buyers confidently, saying, phone Etienne. Etienne will hold your hand through the process. You will get the best advice, the best guidance. He is your go-to person, and I have 100%, we have 100% confidence in you and in Bond Gallery. There's no one better. 17 years, we've walked this road, and we'll continue to do that. And thank you so much for always being there and saying, Karen, yes, I've spoken to your buyer, I've given this advice and this guidance, and I've had many a conversation. They phoned me back and said, wow, blown away. I mean, even though you're on the golf course, you might take a 5-minute breather just to make that call, but you're always there. You're always there for each and every client that we've ever passed across to you. So, fantastic.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much, guys. And I think this is where the relationship comes from, where there's that mutual trust, that if I refer the client to Etienne, you know that they're in good hands. And
Totally.
I mean, I totally understand that my service to your client is a reflection on you as well. And that's, I think, very important to understand. If I make a mistake or I mess up somehow, it reflects badly on you. And that's just more motivation for me to do a better job with every single person that you refer. So, no, thank you so much, guys. It's been brilliant working with you guys, and here's to another 17 or 30 or 50 years.
Absolutely.